Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream. Today is Wednesday, December 29th. We're playing Shadowverse, obviously. Um, Looking at this Omen of Storms characters, I don't... Are these supposed to be from some like anime or something? Or is this just a collection of new characters? Because it is kind of all over the place. You kind of have like a robot girl, which, if anything, I guess this is very much in line with Shadowverse, where things are just constantly um, inconsistent with the animation. There's a whole bunch of swords up front. You have here what looks like maybe a gun girl, if I was to guess, or an airplane girl. Then you have a rabbit, I assume that's girl, in a more feudal dress. Then you have a big burly guy. And then you have, I assume, more of a Chinese girl. And then you have a big burly guy. And then what I assume here is a smaller guy. And then you have a ballerina girl. And when you look at the color palettes and the skin tones and the art styles, it's just all fairly inconsistent. So if it was from an anime, I'd almost complain about the anime being inconsistent in its animation style. Having to download an update out of cycle is a little weird. Destiny Child also did that. Like, they went down for maintenance for several hours yesterday and then came back with like apology rewards and draws of cards, which would be the equivalent. Here on Shaman King, at least, you can see there's a fairly consistent art style, even though this character kind of has this modern headphones and modern style clothing, and this guy looks very much more ancient Japanese. The colors palettes and the drawing and the lines still look pretty good. Let's see. So now when we click on this, we had missed day 1 and we've missed day 3. Oops. Like, I kind of don't care that much either, though. I want to instead spend my time playing Fallout 3 than trying to get a whole bunch of gold in this. As far as quests, we need to play, I think, 9 more separate modes. We need to play 1 private mode every single day. We now have puzzles all over the place to do, so that'll be a nightmare. And then we have win 6 ranked matches and win Portalcraft and Runecraft. The only thing to really re-roll here would potentially be win 3 matches of any kind, which we'll see what that change that into. 3 matches with Forestcraft and Dragoncraft, which that's going to make that a nightmare. For the accountability section, I will say I'm still playing Fallout 3. I feel like when I first played Fallout 3, I let the ghouls, and this is a spoiler for the game, I let a bunch of ghouls kill all the humans at Tenpenny Tower. I felt like that pretty much was the way the game wanted you to do things, because that was definitely the easy solution. We have like nothing right now except for these tickets, so we'll just open 10 packs here. We should just open all 14 packs now, actually. It turns out if you do things very specifically, you can save scum and get speech check successes to convince the humans at Tenpenny Tower to let in the ghouls to live with them. But one of the characters, Susan Lancaster's, is one of 4 characters that you need to turn into a slave and send off to Paradise Falls, the slaver colony. And when you do that, that breaks your ability to talk to her and convince her to let the zombies in. So I broke the quest, and there seemed to be no way to fix it. I even went back to Paradise Falls and killed all the slavers, and every slaver you kill, you get good karma. The game does not make that actually obvious enough that you can get good karma for killing slavers or any enemy at all. Every other enemy gives you just XP. And while it does kind of make sense that you would get bad karma if you killed somebody good, the game is mostly neutral on that aspect, I think, too. Or you just would never find it out, because any named character you generally don't want to kill. So I ended up having to let the ghouls in again, and that didn't really reward me anywhere as much as I think it should have. So I would definitely say stay away from Tenpenny Tower until you have your speech way higher. I am constantly running into problems with the build and the walkthrough I used, not having high enough speech points. Now that I've gotten lockpicking and science up to 100, so I can hack and lockpick any computer, lockpick any locks. I am still also running low on bobby pins, so you have this special limitation in lockpicking with bobby pins that you don't have with hacking computers, but then there's a lot more things to lockpick than there is to hack. It would have made a lot of sense if half the doors in the game had some kind of digital lock on the handles. That way you absolutely could hack twice as much as you are in the game. So yeah, some of my decisions now that we're at the middle of the game definitely feel like decisions that I kind of would have regretted and kind of would have thought about starting all over again if I wasn't close to 50 hours into gameplay, which I'll be my rough estimate at this point. It does definitely feel like you could make a mod where if you wanted to just have everything handed to you as a silver spoon and have a ton of money and a ton of barter skills, starting at Tenpenny Tower would be kind of the perfect place to start, where there are some other cities that clearly are focused on specific skills, but much like Tenpenny Tower, they're all on the very edges of the world instead of the kind of neutral area of Megaton. I would have rebuilt the whole layout of the map so that there was a lot more fighting than talking to one person, fighting than talking to one person, because you constantly run into, okay, I'm now in a city mode, I now need to exhaust every dialogue choice, otherwise somebody's going to, I'm never going to find out a quest. Yeah, I found out there was a whole quest in Megaton that I hadn't done, which more than likely there's probably dozens of quests in Megaton I haven't done, and it gave me quite a bit of experience to just find out that one of the people is a drug addict and then use a speech check to convince him to give up the drugs and stop using. It gave me somewhere between 100 to 300 XP in Fallout 3 is extremely limited when you're getting 2 or 5 XP for everything you kill. I think by getting past level 15 also, we now have higher levels of enemies, so all of a sudden 50 hours into the game playing on very easy, I'm running into some feral ghoul ravagers that are radioactive and they run right up to you and they have a ton of health, and so using VATS and trying to shoot them in the head, I'm putting full clips in their heads and it's taking a quarter of their life, and then I'm just having to run backwards and hip fire or dry fire into them, which I have not had to do with super mutants. I haven't had to do with any other character whatsoever. I assume looking at these pictures that Shaman King is set in a kind of modern time. It's just that because they're all shamans, they dress in kind of more traditional clothes. So, yeah. Let's start with the puzzles and see if we can do this. Today's not going to be a particularly spread and dissolve. It's not going to be a particularly long stream. We don't have a lot of news again, as we're still in the holiday. Plus, Twitter is broken again for me. Reduce the enemy's leader's defense to 0. I did do the if we clash with this, it will summon a knight. What is a knight? It's a 1/1. Whenever this card is fused with this, so do 2 damage to all enemy followers. So here, recover 1 evolution point and 4 play points. During your turn, whenever an allied follower evolves, deal 2 damage to all enemies and 1 damage to the enemy's leader. Okay, so put this here.
The perfect combination.
Evolve here.
Say goodbye. Your time is over.
And win. Okay, not too hard. Not puzzles aren't hard when they give you just 2 cards and you just have to kind of read them. And interesting, you have a whole different skin here for the skill points. It feels unnecessary. I did the single player quest and it just goes on way past level like 21 that they wanted you to do. Defeat all enemy followers. That's different. Alright. So this won't do anything. This won't do anything. This won't do anything. This won't do anything. Okay, so it's just us. Then destroy an enemy follower. Adverse. Draw 2 cards.
So our pact is
So the adverse count is now. If I put this on the field,
Tonight, I'm just a chic piece of trash.
I don't think I can evolve. No, I can evolve.
What do you think of my little red dress?
Okay. So now it's just going to be a matter of who is the one that needs to be killed. This one or this one.
this way to hell, fellas.
Okay.
Is that all you got?
So doing this and then doing this would kill everything. And then this should deal 3 damage to a random enemy follower when we end our turn.
Oh, come here, sweet pet.
Yeah. I feel like they may have learned their lesson after the last puzzles that were just like incredibly difficult. Although we may very well start to run into the same problem. Jet Black Order. Next is Unstoppable Death. I do kind of feel like we're approaching the point where I may be somewhere around 60% of all areas have been uncovered. And I am a little concerned that there is going to be about 4 perks you would want to take when you hit that final level 30 with DLC in Fallout 3. And one of them would be to unveil all locations on the map, which maybe at that point I won't even really care. There's a high chance of that. Reduce the enemy's leader defense to 0. But there is a much more important perk, which is almost perfect, to set everybody's base stats to 999 on as far as your special in Fallout 3. But also getting that at level 30 probably also means you are going to be very close to having already done everything in the game. I kind of wish there would be a new game plus concept, and again a mod might fix something like Fallout 3 for that, where you start with all of your skills at the maximum and all of the perks that you want unlocked. That way you can just play the game the way you'd like to. Yeah, I'd say a lot of games, particularly in the Bethesda era, are designed to force you to play the game for like crazy to get to a point where you would want where you want to be, and then you're just never able to enjoy that point. Let's see. I don't think we need that. If I destroyed something and summoned a copy of something. Well, that may be it. Is that we need this? Yeah, we're on turn 8, so this would do about 3 damage if I killed that and brought it back. It has like 5 cars, so I don't think we could bring that back. When you perform necromancy, gain storm. Can we possibly kill this, though? How many cards have last words that can be destroyed? Nothing. This wouldn't work to do anything. This would just destroy an allied follower. Okay, so we need to kill this somehow. Let's just start with this.
I'm not lonely. Not with everyone around me.
Evolve here.
No one will ever cry again.
5 play points or less. And necromancy 8. Summon an allied copy of that follower. Alright. So we'd have to kill a lot of things here to get to that. So let's start with this.
You've lost your life.
I'm coming for you. Detestable.
Hit that. hit
Detestable.
that.
A fitting end.
Hmm. Hmm. Let's see.
Mother, father.
Still
Mother,
need a
father.
necromancy of 8. Okay. Summon something with last words. Let's see if that works.
I shall exit with grace.
That didn't work.
Come on.
Should have seen
Please
your
hear me.
combinations and I just might save you.
Hmm.
I'm glad you're here.
Oh boy, does this feel complicated. Yeah, and this is gonna make the whole stream really long. We don't really have a ton to talk about, but if I just try and do these whole puzzles, yeah. Just to kind of wrap up the accountability section on Fallout 3, yeah, there was a couple decisions I made, a couple of decisions like to just kill all the slavers in Paradise Falls that weren't really connected to a quest per se. It was just you could do this and the game will let you do this if you're so inclined. Let's see. Need something that doesn't have rush. Enhance this storm. And that would be then a 5/5.
Do your worst, evil spirit.
I'm coming for you.
This is my fight.
Though I set, I will rise again.
Ah! Detestable.
I don't think retracing the path is needed. Should have put this on the field.
You've lost your life, not your nobility.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't think I'm going to be able to get this. Yeah, we're already at that point, and it's better to just give up now and move forward. But yeah, I do feel like Fallout 3 kind of starts to fall apart when you're at the back half of it, as is true for so many video games. Its systems are not perfect by any means. There's a real lack of breadcrumbing. I've done almost all the side quests that I think I can do right now before I'm just gonna have to be forced back to doing the main story. There's a lot of places, a lot of cities you should just be able to walk into, and you should be able to immediately get more quests off quest boards when walking into a city. What was the goal? We didn't look at the hint. We should look at the hints. Like, I assume we're supposed to kill everybody here. Highest attack in play at a tie. We need to figure out what that does.
Judgment's flame awaits all you sinners.
Glorious victory awaits us.
Of course, maybe I could have evolved that at a different time.
This is what the flowers want.
Banish a random enemy follower with 5, 4, and 3 and 1 defense, respectively.
I got this.
Subtract that. Apparently this evolves. Oh. That would have been useful. Could do this.
You're in good hands.
We could do this.
Hearken the voice of divine wind.
Repent before it's too late.
It's like everything here is just incredibly hard. Play Purging Light after reducing Vicious Blader's defense to 5 or less. Okay. Which one is Vicious Blader? Here. So this will evolve when an amulet is done. This we don't want to attack with yet. This would be the highest attack in play. Alright, so what can we do? If we play this, it's just 2 minus 2. And this just kind of summons things, which I think is... Right now we have a 5, we have a 3. If we could get something down to a 4... Like, it kind of does feel like this is the move.
Judgment's flame awaits all you sinners.
Glorious victory awaits us.
But I don't have anything here otherwise to work with.
Wretched. Sin.
That's 4.
I got this. Verifying access.
That's 2. And I guess the question would be if either one of these kind of did anything. What's Caldrus? You could gain Storm had you summoned Caldrus. Interesting you can't play this
This is
at
what
the
the
moment.
flowers want.
Yeah, this seems like this would be the real solution here. And yet the hint specifically is saying that's not it. Purging Light. Because I assume our goal here is to also kill this guy. Not just kill everybody on the field.
Hearken the voice of divine wind.
Gain Storm.
You're in good hands.
3. Do no damage there. Could have gotten that down to 5 at that point.
Repent before it's too late.
That doesn't get Storm again. Yeah, I just give up. Like that I'm just gonna look up these answers. Like, it's not worth my time. Shadowverse has failed as a collectible card game so much more than Hearthstone or let's just look at the hint here on this one. Or even Magic the Gathering Arena. Like, it's just completely failed to keep my interest in it, and it's completely become a hindrance and a bother, and it just demands way too much of my time and doesn't reward me properly for the time I put in it, giving me pathetically small amounts of gold that is then drained as soon as there's a new card expansion. And while that is true for most collectible card games, Shadowverse has been one of the worst ones. And the only good sales pitch for it, really, is the fact that play Allure of Shadows to put an allied Shady Priest into play. Okay. That's what I thought. You want to get this on the field.
I'm not lonely. Not with everyone around me.
And then evolve.
No one will ever cry again.
Destroy an enemy follower. We now need just a necromancy of 8 first. This would give me Storm.
You've lost your life.
I'm
Nor
coming
Fiona.
for you.
Let's see, that gives me more necromancy things.
Detestable. Detestable.
Let's see. Necromancy, gain Storm. Do I have something else to summon a ghost? Kind of feel like you can do this. Oh, no, you can't. I think we're gonna have to get rid of this.
We definitely don't
I'm
get along.
coming for you.
And
Detestable.
this.
Mother, father. Mother, father.
This.
Though I set, I will rise again.
Yeah, I kind of needed to have done something here. Alright, well, let's see. Wicked Rebirth on this guy.
Pathetic.
That gets me enough. But now I don't have enough to play this. Which, once I would bring this back, I still need to figure out how to crystallize some things. And even if I could crystallize something, it would only banish one random follower, so I needed to have killed more on the field anyways. I'm seeing the beginnings of a solution there, but I still don't want to really spend my time on it. I guess the good news is I did get Legends of Bumbo, and so I will try and play that and think of maybe playing. Legend of Bumbo is a weird game potentially to pick to replace Shadowverse, but I might actually give it a choice because I'm ready to leave Shadowverse. I've been ready to leave Shadowverse for a while. I really wish the Second Dinner collectible card game was out, Marvel collectible card game, but it isn't, so instead of waiting for that, maybe we'll just play something completely different, something very simplistic. Legend of Bumbo is effectively a match 3 game. Arguably I should just stop playing any game at all, or go back to Magic the Gathering and live with that. Hope they don't ban me for network troubles. Magic Sediment, which is an amulet that can be stacked if the total attack in play is 3, at least 3 when the card is played. Deal 5 damage instead. So I don't know if we're trying to just get more Earth Sigils. Or what? You do something like this, this does 2 damage. That stacks everything up here. You do this. And then you do this. And that gets that down. You have an Earth Sigil here. And that's more than enough to do all of this. No, I think we need to play this first. Start of your opponent's turn, if the total stack count is at least 3, deal 2 damage to enemy leader. For at least 7 allied stack cards have been consumed. Yeah, I don't know if you could really consume that many. Like it seems like
Time.
yeah, that was 5. Okay. So we need not this yet. Because that won't work. See, whenever the enemy follower is destroyed, this also activates something. Okay. So I think you have to start with this one. And just do 2 damage here. Then I think you put this here.
Little spell just for you. Let's go.
And see, this is kind of like 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, which should be 10 in total. This wouldn't quite work. Kind of feel like you have to do this. Would this be 7? No. This is just another Earth Sigil we could play. What is magical augmentation, I wonder?
Red, green, and blue. The perfect mix.
Deal 1 damage, Earthright 2, deal 4 damage, then draw 2 cards. Meanwhile, this still isn't enough.
Clay is great for expressing feelings.
I'll see you in purgatory.
So that destroyed 1. So now it has Rush. I don't know what else we can do though. Like you play here and attack here and you're dead. So if the goal here is to kill all of these characters, we've won. If the goal here was to get them down to 0, we've lost. Yeah. And we still would have mostly lost. Even if we had been able to do 7 more damage. Holy King Lion has Storm for 4. Which still really wouldn't have defeated it. Now we've only done 2 more. This is what we really needed to play. Play Emilu Smile Mancer is the hint. And what's crazy here is I actually liked the experience that happened when they added puzzles to Hearthstone. Okay, so we lost potentially in our sigil there.
I'll see you in purple.
Well, I wonder here if there's something more to this. Ward in Magic Settlement. Like maybe it just doesn't matter that you're summoning these and then they're getting destroyed. No. I don't think so. It definitely feels like you have to play this first. Which
I'll see you in purple.
I don't know why that does 5 damage. Let's just start again. Then you play this.
A happy little spell just for you. Let's go. Scrap Golem here is a 0-2, so now would be the time to play this. Then to do, say, this. Nope, because then that messes that up. Yep. If this looks boring to you, let me assure you this is also boring to me. A happy little spell just for you. Let's go.
So pretty much you have to do this. Unless you want to get rid of this character very quickly, or you would want to get rid of this character very quickly. Unless I misunderstand this one. I guess there is a possibility I am misunderstanding this. Maybe it really is just 4. Maybe I should have killed this one.
Time for the grand finale.
That does kind of feel like that would work. Had I killed this one, then this one would have attacked by 7.
Red, green, and blue. The perfect mix. Odamari. Clay is great for expressing feelings.
Of course, we don't have enough
Needing
here.
away.
I'll see you in purple.
Yeah, unless this thing could attack twice, we then would need Holy King Lion, which would only do 4, or this to do
Add 1 stack to an allied stack. Alright, well, I give up. I could spend an hour here, and it has been like 50 minutes just to look at these puzzles, and we're only halfway through. I did skip through the story of Shadowverse. That is one thing I want to kind of wrap up before I fully abandon Shadowverse, is I want to just make a few more episodes covering the story. But it does kind of feel like this chapter is the end of the story, or it's at least a good point to abandon the story. This takes damage. If it's not destroyed, deal 3 damage to random enemies, and then 3 damage to enemy leader. If as follows, damage, evolve it. So if I could damage it once, and then damage it again. +1 damage, last words, destroy a random enemy follower. Let's just ask. Play Disdain rendering on an evolved feline Blizzard Hearth and enemy hulking druid. So, what? Play this to an evolved feline Blizzard's Hearts and an enemy hulking dragon newt. This one can't take more than 1 damage at a time, I see. Well, where's the feline? Here we go. Okay. So do 1 damage to this guy.
Like frost, biting ice and snow.
Let's see. Now this one needs to be evolved. So what do we want? To do. Do we need to get the ward people out of the way? Or do we need to do something else? Two damage to a random enemy following and 1 damage to enemy leader. We may very well just have to do that. Let's see. Am I supposed to just be drawing cards here? 2 damage to all enemies. It's not worth doing. 4 damage to all enemies. +2, +2.
Finally, I see someone.
It's all so dissipate.
Nope. That did not work.
Worship the primal flame.
I kind of do think I see how this goes, though, or how this is supposed to play. Is that this here?
Blowing white frost, biting ice and snow.
But that feels like that'd be so random, too. Like, it kind of feels like you kill these three, and then you just have these two attack each other back and back.
Blowing white frost, biting ice and snow.
Interesting. Okay, so that attack actually only happens that one time. Okay. So we'll just go ahead and get rid of that.
The biting cold will leave its mark.
And then they want... The hint here is to place Disdainful Render here. To do this against this, which makes really just no sense at all. One damage to all other followers. That wouldn't be good. 1 damage to all enemies, or 2 damage to all enemies. For 5. Three damage to an enemy, 3 damage to an enemy. We could do more there. Yeah, there's just far too many factors here. Far too many factors.
Primal flame.
Yeah, you hit this.
A fitting end.
I don't know if this actually plays any factor at all.
Ashes to ashes.
So yeah, unless there was something else that we could find to play, or we either played one card or we played out of order, or we just didn't get lucky enough. Yeah, and I'm just gonna look up all these answers. I'm just gonna not waste my time on it. This doesn't really promote Shadow the Shaman King either, because really don't know. I think we were doing Beyond Despair just now. Let's go back and check. It's really not telling you any of the story of Shaman King, that's the thing I would have been more interested in. It's not really making these characters sound particularly cool. Evolve Sarah, Maiden of the Dawn. Reduce the enemy's leader to 0 defense. They need 2 buttons here. Some people would just want to check the objective without seeing a hint. Right. Anything special here? When an ally comes into play, do 1 damage to enemy leader. Nothing particularly special. When this strikes, it recovers a certain number of play points equal to the follower's attack. So we've got to figure out a way how to deal a bunch of damage. Rally. What is our rally count? This seems new. Rally count is 2. So to summon a bunch of things. I think you probably would put this here on this. Nope, you can't do it. Why can you not? Yeah, put it there.
Swallow you whole.
Now would we get that?
Sword sweep.
Evolve. I guess this guy.
Cast his blades in the east.
Okay.
No one gets past
1,
me. Ah, fool.
2, 3.
The contract's broken.
Why did that guy not die? Why is this guy not evolved? This would give me 8 points back.
Be bathed in light.
This would give me 7 points back. What are we looking for? We're still very far away from the idea of a rally count being high enough. So So do we want 9 points back and then we can't evolve this? But we could play it. For no reason. We could have played this to give +2/+2 to get 9 points back.
I'll cleave
I think you do this. Attack 2 turns. Oh man, if I had given the other guy the ability to attack 2 turns.
This is more than just a game.
Alright. Attack 2 times per turn. And then start giving a real increase
I'll swallow you whole.
in his ability. I almost wonder if this guy should be the one that attacks twice per turn. Okay.
Shashing!
Hit this, I suppose.
No one
And
gets
then you
past
hit
me.
this, I suppose.
The contract's
I'll
broken.
cleave you in two.
Hit that. And that doesn't work. So giving this guy the ability to attack 2 turns may have been. I don't know why this guy isn't evolving.
This'll be a cinch.
The dawn shines like a beacon of hope.
Yeah. Unless I could kill this guy, evolving this would actually kill me. Alright. So if you did this,
Fastest blades in the east.
and then you let this guy attack twice,
Shashing!
that,
Shashing!
and that.
The contract's broken.
I'll swallow you whole.
Maybe it's wrong to play this and get that one extra thing. It really isn't going to help me any.
I'll cleave you in two.
Then I kind of wonder if this is the wrong move and that I should play this and evolve. I should experiment with that.
The dawn shines like a beacon of hope.
No one gets past me.
Ah!
全力で行かせてもらう。
Dawn always
We
prevails.
won't
Oh,
give 'em
dawn
an
is a
inch.
bonus. Dawn is a bonus. Dawn is a bonus.
So that lets you
Time to retreat.
potentially
Time to retreat.
do something like
Time to
that.
retreat.
But I'd still need 3 more things for a rally count, and it's just not there.
The Queen's Need starts now.
Yeah, I guess maybe if you had just that on the
Blessed
field.
sunrise. We will greet the new dawn.
Yeah, I give up. The hint here is to evolve Sarah Maiden at Dawn. This one. Which is okay. Kind of what I was looking at doing. But I'd still give up.
参ったな。
Yeah, we're not covering any video game news right now at all. It has occurred to me maybe I should take a break for a week just to let my eyes, was that Threads and Wings? I don't know. Rest and work on scheduling instead. I hate to potentially kill momentum playing Fallout 3, but it is definitely a thought. Leader's defense to 0. What's the hint? Use Azrael's last words effect to destroy an allied Sting Master that's been put into play. Right. String Master. What in the world? Why would I want to do that? This does not make any sense. Okay. Well, you play this. Definitely. Or we could try and kill a whole bunch of followers, which I just don't see how we do that. So I think you do something like this and hope that actually does something, which it didn't.
That beast is my savior. You want to hunt? Be my guest.
Why is it the string is so pricey?
Interesting. Why do I need to get rid of the String Master? Though.
One hit kill.
Each one of these is one of these that only takes 1 damage.
You want to hunt? Be my guest.
Time to fly.
My cards have been played this turn.
This here ranch will never. Woo-wee, look at all that water.
Yeah, I don't see what we're doing here. Hit 1 there. Hit 1 there. Play this here. What does this do? Other cards in your hand. So we could like reduce his attack somewhat.
How about some feline fun?
Don't think that really does anything though.
Scaredy man, you're kidding me.
Yeah, you could get 2 more had I played the String Master ability somewhat fast here. Evolve, recover 3 points at any return if you have at least 1 play point, gain +1/+1. Destroy a random enemy follower, and neither one of those is really going to help you.
Is this your judgment?
This here ranch will
that, I
never
guess.
know theirs.
Since this will have rush.
A spin and a twirl and up. There's our puppy to game.
That. That.
Woo-wee, look at all that water.
That. What do you play now, though?
You want to hunt? Be my guest.
Time to fly.
Yeah, I'm spending way too much time on this.
Savior. You want to hunt? Be my guest.
Time to fly.
What's next? I could play this, but I don't have enough points. I could play this, but I don't have enough points. So unless there was something that was going to give me more points. Seems still very much like you're miles away from success. Just absolute miles away from success.
Scaredy mouse, scaredy
Unless,
mouse, hit me.
yeah, because you're trying to get this guy's health down to 0, and I'm not getting anywhere close to that. And this is just absolutely the worst time, even for a Japanese audience. This is the worst time for them to be giving us all of this stuff to do. So there, in an hour and 20 minutes, is a very pathetic attempt to solve puzzles. As far as rewards and stuff, it's just going to be grinding to get unlocks, which you can fairly easily do just by playing the game. If you just play on beginner. Win 15 quest missions is easy enough to do. Defeating all 3 levels, kind of hard. Defeating 100 enemies is easy enough to do. Play 50 spells is easy enough. Winning in 10 turns using a trial deck with at least 10 defense is probably pretty easy. There's some more things that might be a little bit more difficult on this one, and then these I would expect might be a little bit more difficult, but not super difficult. And then when you get to Hal, the lowest expert character, I imagine he is the most dangerous and difficult person. There is something weird about this animation style, I have to say. You've got a very sharp cut-in V on these characters. I feel like maybe this might be a re-release of a second try at Shaman King on this animation, and not just a continuation of this series. Like, you got really skinny arms, really skinny necks. But yeah. You definitely have a lot more guys being depicted. The female character here, while still skinny arms, skinny legs, is showing way less skin than any of the guys. So almost wouldn't be surprised if you told me Shaman King actually was more targeted towards Japanese girls more than Japanese boys as an action show, although it does kind of seem like it would be an action show. So we have until the January 25th to do that, so there's plenty of time. And then I just wanted to point this out. We'll cover the whole story, but this final loop goes up to level 24, and it just jumps all over the place. You can also skip a lot of fights, so I skipped everything except for the one fight I couldn't skip on 21 to get that daily quest. So there's also a challenge here that I still need to beat. But I'll need to come back and do that later. There is also the events, the private events in progress. But mostly I've just wasted so much time now. Here we have, I just want to barely pay any attention to this at all. Start a runecraft game. Unranked? No, it's gotta be ranked. And then ignore it. And I don't even think I can do that because we have to rebuild all the decks. I mean, it is just insane how much they screw you over here. How am I missing cards? They must have gotten rid of some temporary cards somewhere. I also feel like Shadowverse is doing that and not really making that obvious. Is that they, for a very long time, were not dissolving temporary cards, and now all of a sudden it does feel like they are dissolving the temporary cards on you. And yeah, suffice it to say, that's not something I'm happy about. Just take like one of everything. Come on, what happened? I added, still have cards. It straight up says I haven't obtained. If it isn't that it's taking away temporary cards, it's just straight up glitched. That would have to be my other thought, is that the game has straight up lost cards in my inventory. I imagine what it is temporary cards with temporary decks disappear when there's a new expansion.
Is fighting and despair all you know?
or
Until the
maybe
end of time,
temporary
just you
cards
and me.
from the wild unranked cards, the out of rotation cards disappear. Let's see if I can now actually go through my Twitter feed and see the news. Yeah, I wanted this to be such a short and sweet stream too, and didn't happen. Here we have a game called Bitardia, which we can ignore, $5.39. Here we have Tobas Zombies, which we can ignore. I would say this is $9.59 English and German. I also think we once again are not going to see any adult games. I wouldn't be surprised if it is going to be somewhere around half a week to a week into the new year before anything adult is approved again on Steam. Russian Train Trip here. It doesn't look like a full game. $5.09 English and Russian. Gunzoe looks like nothing. 10 Seconds to Win looks like a frustration platformer with a timer, which makes it even worse. 59 cents English only. I really don't have to do anything with the story, with the sale that's going on right now, since I already bought the games, which maybe I should keep that in mind and always kind of buy games fairly early in the sale instead of, and that way I can save some time and not potentially rethink things. I will say though, the Steam sales are pretty bad for multi-day sales in it compared to like Amazon.com with its lightning sales during Prime Days or Prime Day sales or Black Friday sales. They're doing these lightning deals 24/7 for nearly a week. Here we have a Devil's Eyes visual novel that it doesn't look polished enough to interest me. $4.24 English only. Here we have a Big Fish Games hidden object game, The Christmas Spirit, Late to the Party. $12.59 English, allegedly full audio. And I can already see the beginning of the end at this point. Here we have a game called Thugs Never Die, which is early access, $9.99 English, allegedly full audio. This looks like an asset flip game to me, but it looks kind of polished enough that there might actually be something here, so I'll give it a follow. But I am really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Yeah, not even gonna try and play. Here we have something called Vibration Companion, which seems to be more than likely just a low effort demo that would have controllers vibrate.
Double check.
Add vibration to any button in the gamepad. Huge customization option, giving your games and yourself a new gaming experience. That's an interesting thought, certainly. $3.19 isn't asking a lot. It says it supports a whole bunch of language. You're definitely not going to have contextual awareness there. So you would be just playing an old game and saying vibrate whenever I pull the trigger to shoot the gun or something like that. And you wouldn't get vibrations, for instance, when you get hit or take damage. I honestly thought this was just going to be one of those excuse games that turns your controller into a sex toy vibrator, which is a terrible thought anyways and a troll joke. The problem with this that I see is A, it's just extra work that's not worth doing, and B, there's very, very few games that have controller support that don't also have vibration support. Very, very few. So if you're using something like Joy2Key to map your controller inputs to a keyboard input, this might be something that you could do on top of that, but I've only had to do that with the original Binding of Isaac and no other game. So it's kind of like there's not really a problem out there to justify that app. As far as actual news, very little has happened. John Madden died at the age of 85. He is the namesake at this point of the Madden football games. Although in all fairness, I don't know if his voice has actually even been used in the past 5 to 10 years in any of the Madden games. And it was originally something, the original Madden I think was John Madden Presents NFL or something like that, and the names has gone through several changes to the point where it's just called Madden and de-emphasized on itself. Even in the 2000 here you see EA Sports Madden 2000, but Madden himself, who isn't particularly a great looking guy, hasn't shown up on the cover. It's kind of funny to have a broadcaster be your namesake of your NFL game, but it kind of works better. I'd say broadcasters live in fame a little bit longer than any random NFL player, unless you're talking some of the greatest that have just kept on playing. If EA could have named it like Tom Brady when Tom Brady was first starting out at the NFL, they would have won the lottery on that for a Brady NFL series. But then had they picked some new NFL player to be their sponsor, and then that NFL player played half a season and then never played NFL again, that would have been a huge loss. But yeah, that's about the only news, and it's only news because specifically of the fact that he died. And that's the only thing Video Games Chronicles has as an article today at all. Gamatsu says Dragon Quest X Offline has been delayed to summer of 2022 in Japan. The Triangle Strategy character story in trailer number 2, Frederick Acefrost, for the Switch game is now available. Although I think what this is actually going to show is a lot of stationary images and a lot of stationary images of the actual game. Nothing particularly interesting. According to Gamatsu, Delightworks has established Lazingle, a new company to be transferred to Aniplex. So Delightworks game business has created a new company in some legal wrangling to then be transferred over. Usually when I hear some company does this, what they're doing is trying to leave a whole bunch of debts on Delightworks, the original company, and then transfer all of the business assets and valuable resources to the new company. It's ridiculous. The whole idea of corporations or people falls apart when no human being can split themselves into two separate entities and put all the good aspects in one and all the bad aspects in another. Even legally, a human being has a sole proprietorship or a limited liability, an LLC, a limited liability corporation, really can't effectively split themselves into a separate entity. It's technically that's what you're supposed to be able to do with LLCs, but it's so easy to mess it up or for creditors to take you to court and destroy your LLC, and then come for your sole assets, come for your house, your car, things like that. They call that piercing the veil. You have to really cross every dot and have a lawyer and accountants help you to avoid that potentially happening.
Oh, are you in need of medicine?
And arguably, I'd say for most small businesses, most sole proprietorships, they end up a lot more often causing that individual person to go into a individual bankruptcy compared to the corporation going into a bankruptcy. Let's just pretend to play a little bit here. You do have this screenshot here showing off some characters as far as who Aniplex is getting. Here you can see a Fate Stay character, and I can't name any of these other characters if they're supposed to be from different anime, or if they're all from Fate Stay, then I can only recognize a Saber here, I believe is her name, and not any of the other characters. Noelle the Mortal Fate for Switch launches February 10th, 2022 on the Switch. Do we have a bit of a trailer here? We have some screenshots. Is this a sequel to that RPG game? This might very well be a sequel to that weird RPG game. No, I don't think it is. It looks like it's its own weird RPG. And here you have a teaser trailer where they're playing piano and showing off people. There was this RPG game where this girl wanted to die, went into this weird labyrinth, and on each floor there was a serial killer, and she met up with this, on the first floor she met this serial killer with a big scythe, and he decided to protect her instead of killing her because he only wanted to kill people who didn't want to die. And it was a weird kind of simple RPG maker game that was popular enough that it got an anime based on it, although it's kind of weird. Yeah. Noelle the Mortal Fate is a game on Steam already.
Everyone needs an afterlife plan.
Here's the game I was thinking of, Angels of Death. So this, I don't think, is storyline connected to Noelle. It's just maybe the same artists doing the same thing. Yeah. So yeah, it's just the same artist, and that's why it looked so similar to me. Moving on, Komatsu says Relayer Ice Planet gameplay is now available to see if you want to check that out. Looks like it's a mech game. Like, mech games on ice planets feel pretty much the same as a mech game anywhere else. You can see here it's a positional placement game also. I would almost say if mech fighting games ever have a chance of being popular, they need to have a whole bunch of environments, so an ice planet should just be one of many locations, like a desert planet, ice planet, forest planet, or desert regions. Doesn't have to be an entire planet, doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's just end. Moving on, Komatsu says Remedy Entertainment has signed a global agreement with Tencent for the free-to-play cooperative shooter Vanguard. So Tencent is going to localize and publish the game for select Asian markets, as well as develop a mobile version. Which, yeah. I would say, potentially feeling a little bit more soft-hearted towards Tencent. Like, I honestly kind of think there is at least some small desire of Tencent to not be a puppet of the Chinese government. But as a Chinese corporation, I don't see any way that they can avoid it. And I'm not 100% sure that that isn't just a facade and not really the case, and that they fully enjoy and love the benefits that they get by being a puppet of the Chinese government in China. I mean, they sometimes run into problems, but they also have enjoyed massive deals with major AAA companies when they, in my opinion, never deserved to have to work with these AAA game developers. And that's still really the case, as Remedy Entertainment is only signing this agreement because you have to do business, you have to partner with a Chinese company to publish a game in China. And so Remedy Entertainment is trying to do business in China, where I constantly say, and there's constant examples, that you really can't do business in China and succeed. Like, the allure of a potential market of billions of players is tempting, yes, but the reality is it's just not worth selling your soul for it, and that's really what you constantly end up doing. I feel like most big corporations constantly do that. They make decisions where they sell a little bit of their soul as people, as a corporation, whatever. They compromise their morals a little bit each time to make some potential profit, but that profit is always not worth it. Moving on, the PlayStation Plus free games for January have been announced. Deep Rock Galactic, Persona 5 Strikers, Dirt 5. Yeah, that's it. Dragon Quest X Offline details guest characters, original episodes, and Spell of Restoration. Which, yeah. Dragon Quest X Offline still does not look particularly interesting. Gematsu has an article here. Japanese creators discuss their 2022 ambitions. This is from a Famitsu article. So, you could read this, but I would almost say it's not worth it to read this, because this is these are basically announcements for announcements for announcements for announcements. It's going to be 5-6 steps away from any real concrete confirmation or announcements of any games or any activity any Japanese game developer is going to make. They're really just talking about their ambitions, and in a corporate sense, you're not going to talk about an ambition saying, I'd really love to make a new Resident Evil game, if you're some small-time game developer who would never actually work with Capcom to make a Resident Evil game. You might say that, but then that's the kind of thing you would say to friends, not to a Famitsu article interviewer, a reporter. So any ambitions they talk about are going to probably be filtered through the idea of what are we really going to announce and what are we really going to do. It would be very easy for each of them to say, my ambition is to make $1 billion and win the lottery. But that's not something you would flippantly say to an interviewer, nor would that be useful information. Moving on, GameDeveloper.com has 3 articles here. Riot Games has ended a gender discrimination class action in a $100 million settlement, and it reserves $80 million to be paid out to staff and contractors at Riot Games. It includes forward-looking safeguards for pay, equity, and DE&I initiatives. I don't know what DE&I would be. Discrimination, education, and improvement initiatives, maybe. I would argue $20 million only going to the lawyers is actually a relatively small amount. But I also feel like there's a lot of ridiculous ways in which lawyers suck money out of funds over time to make it look like they only got paid. They only got paid 20 million when they might be closer to getting half or more. Now, the question here is what this class action suit is potentially not involving either the federal government or the state government. And so this probably means those two investigations may still somewhat continue, or it may mean that in agreeing with this class action lawsuit, those two investigations may be hindered somewhat, because you still have California Department of Fair Employment and Housing and the Securities and Exchange Commission, and I believe there was another federal organization. This is definitely not a bad time to also have a settlement happen when people aren't looking. By the time mainstream video game journalists get back to potentially reporting on news, this will be a small notation and maybe not mentioned at all. And then the only other things GameDeveloper.com had to talk about is child care registration is now open for their GDC 2022. Same parent company owns GDC and Game Developer. And then that they're going to have a presentation of where you can find out how Cyberpunk 2077 lit up Night City, which I don't think anybody cares how anybody did anything in Cyberpunk 2077. I don't think, even if there actually are some lessons to be learned as far as better game development and programming, I don't think anybody want to hear it from a loser, for lack of a kinder way to put it. Like Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red at this point, they are, in the eyes of their peers, losers, failures. They are not the people to turn to get deep insight. Although, in all honesty, maybe there is a lot of deep insight that could be gained from learning from their mistakes, but people in the video game industry in particular, but people in general, don't learn from other people's mistakes. They laugh at other people's mistakes, and then they try to emulate other people's successes. Which, yeah. If CD Projekt Red was going to do a session about Cyberpunk 2077, almost every session should be what we did wrong with Cyberpunk 2077. And it should be coming from admitting mistakes were made to start with. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called One Day, which is oddly animated, but doesn't really look like an actual game so much. It seems like there's one enemy and a mage that can cast spells, and that's it. Free to play, English only. Here we have a game called Malaga, which just looks like a horror asset flip shooter of no interest. $1.59, English only. Here we have something called Off to Mall Garden, which looks like a random collection of things. A 3D shooter, like I guess third-person perspective bullet hell shooter would be what you would call it. It's early access, $79.99, English only. It has a very weird name for an English only game. I'm going to say no to that. Here we have a game called Elements of Dreams, which just looks like a NES game, even more than an RPG Maker game. It's free, English only. Even if this was a student project, though, I wouldn't really want to highlight it. Here we have Happy Humble's Burger Barn, which looks like garbage. It's free and seems to be... They have a demo for free. But then they have a $19.99 version of it. English, allegedly full audio. Here we have a game called Subject Relictus, which looks like nothing. $2.99. I suppose it was a pretty good thing that I've been streaming pretty late these days. Like there really would be no news at all otherwise. Here we have another low effort game called Hungry Wolf. 99 cents, English only. Here we have something called Open League, which looks like a simulation game. Free to play. I believe that Epic is still giving away free games, but I don't think I even saw the article that said that. Here we have a game called Exsanguinate, which is not a word you say out loud very much. I'm not even sure what it means. I think it's something like either bleeding out from the throat, choking someone. It's a cause of death word that doctors or coroners would use, which I suppose it's important to point out coroners don't have to be doctors. They barely have to be qualified at all. $4.24 English full audio. This doesn't look so awful that I won't give it a follow, but I probably am being a little generous there too. Next we have Amazing George, which looks like it's just a maze game. 84 cents English only. Here we have Red Ops Arcade, which looks like nothing. Top-down hack and slash game. Not polished enough. $2.09, third-party EULA. Here we have Roller Coaster at the Global Wonders VR. We've seen versions of this before, and much like previous versions of this, it definitely feels like the roller coasters just never move at the right speed. It feels like the frame rate is always incredibly clunky. Arguably this looks a lot better than the last VR roller coaster game I've seen, but yeah, maybe that is just a case where the roller coaster was taking its time to speed up, because now it feels like it's moving maybe a little faster than it should be for the angles that it's moving at. I guess there's a problem with a VR roller coaster in the sense that well, that was clunky again. You probably aren't actually trying to emulate the physics because there's really flat paths here, where most real roller coasters have a slow crawl up to a very high place, and then they allow gravity to fling you through the rest of the roller coaster. You're not really seeing that in this case. This is $1.79, which is too cheap. It says it supports a ton of languages. I was going to put this on the follow list, but at that price tag, you're just telling me that it's going to be garbage. Also, there's not really an experience here. Maybe you'll get 20 minutes of entertainment out of it one time, and then that would be it. Next, we have what looks like a mobile Chinese game. English not supported. Free, Chinese only. Next, we have a game called Motherstone, which does not look good. $6.99, English only. Here we have a game called Defaloon, which looks like nothing. $1.99, English only. We have about 8 more tabs. Casual Pixel Warrior, looks like garbage. Free to play, English allegedly full audio. Hellbound Monsters. Looks like nothing. This is probably, yeah, this does not look too bad, too off the Netflix Korean story Hellbound that I watched. Yeah, the monsters in Hellbound kind of looked like that, but obviously you can tell this is a bad game and it really isn't actually tied into that story. Plus that Korean manga is, I think the manga is unfinished. The Netflix series definitely is unfinished. I would not recommend watching Hellbound until they go further with it and have a much better, not cliffhanger ending. Definitely a no for the game. Tactical Operations Force here. Doesn't look like anything of interest. $26.99 is too expensive. English allegedly full audio. There is polish here, but it does just kind of still feel like asset flip more than an actual full game. We have Car Wash Tower Defense, which that's a little weird to potentially shift it from shooting enemies to shooting, I guess, suds to wash cars. This is weird that it says please watch with sound. Like, do you really need sound for any trailer? I'd say probably not, and in this case you almost certainly don't need sound. That's a no. Next we have Sporty Games, which seems to look too low polygon for its effort at having multiple sports games, and none of the actual sports games look that interesting. There's apparently a tracker app you're supposed to install also. $7.19, English and French. Here we have a game called Robots and Lasers, which looks like nothing. $1.99, English allegedly full audio. And then here we have another Chinese game. Not even a ton of Chinese games. Just nothing's getting approved, I assume, at all, because I bet nobody's working at Valve. This is a free-to-play MMO with in-app purchases, Chinese only. And then that just leaves me with starting a discovery queue, which I can't show the discovery queues because there's too high of a chance of there being an adult game there. I will, while I am here, look at the Epic storefront and see what is on the Epic storefront right now as a free game. Sultan Sanctuary is the free game right now, so I will go ahead and grab that. And then let's just check our feeds as far as what's on Steam and see what is new. Nothing new has come out that we haven't covered in the past 2 hours, and yeah, I am definitely trying to get these down to 2-hour streams and definitely ignoring a lot of stuff just because it doesn't matter. A lot of stuff on Shadowverse in particular. Yeah. There's basically nothing at all. Yeah, we're also in a kind of weird position, or at least I'm personally in a weird position, because I really didn't feel like I bought that much for this whole Christmas Black Friday season because of Amazon Prime Day being so earlier. So now we are definitely in a dry spell where there's just not a lot of sales happening on slickdeals.net, and that feels a little awkward, but it's probably a good thing. I mean, it's almost certainly a good thing. I don't need to be buying random things. Yeah, the only article we have here is the best of 2021, the trends and events that defined the year for game developers. This is almost certainly another article that was written before they went on their break. And it probably would give you some insight as far as just what GameDeveloper.com was interested in. Epic versus Apple, which that has gone nowhere. Accessibility advances, which I think that was way overemphasized. Game stonks. I don't think that really had much to do to actually affect video games at all. Honestly, affecting GameStop does not really affect the video game development community or video games at all. And here, notice they're mentioning Trump in the same sentence to game stonks, which there's literally no reason at all to talk about Trump or the attack on the US Capitol in that at all. That is highly political. NFT and blockchains, also something that should be underreported. If there's one thing I would forgive mainstream video game journalists to just refuse to report on, NFTs would definitely be it. Like, the metaverse is nothing. It is a dumb concept trying to be pushed into reality. The Great Resignation, we'll see how much of that sticks and actually happens. And I don't know how much of the video game community was really affected by the Great Resignation so much. Activision Blizzard was a big story that actually had some meat on its bones worth reporting on. Notice here, this is all kind of very negative stuff. Like, in retrospect, even how they're reporting, GameDeveloper.com has nothing good to say for the entire year, when there were good individual games that at least came out that I feel like deserve some income, some coverage. Worker organization really didn't happen. One small group. Rise of cozy games. I feel like cozy games have been around for several years. It's just now people maybe are playing more. Mergers, acquisitions, and investments happen every year. I have no interest in doing a end of the year recap, evaluating my own performance this year. I'd just be very critical on myself and fully recognize that that I am not doing as much content, making as much content as I would like. I'm going through the Steam curation field right now. First game was a game with sexual content, and it is scheduled to release on January 28th. I think that is part of the problem with the curator issue in particular, is that my system to only look at games when they actually release runs in conflict with their discovery queue system, which wants people to look at games before they're released and get hyped about them, which just really does not work for video games at all, because they get delayed so often. The Sky RPG, a mobile phone port. Interesting. And the discovery queue is based on games I played, but they should recognize that just because I played Disgaea doesn't mean I actually liked it. I barely played it compared to the average playtime. I barely played it for 4 or 5 hours. But yeah. These discovery queue suggestions are mostly useless. It's either a game I've already looked at, or it's a game that isn't out yet. But I am finding a couple things to put on the fall list. So, yeah, I'm gonna end this stream somewhat early. And then, let's see. I have 20 hours to play one private match. And then look up all the puzzle experience and do that. And then maybe get some quick disconnects for ranked, but probably not even that. So all of today, either for the rest of today, either I waste that time playing Shadowverse or I go back to Fallout 3. And I guess I may do a little bit of Shadowverse just as a kind of way of letting my eyes rest, but I would much prefer to play Fallout 3. I suspect if today is Wednesday and there's no news, and Monday had no news, I heavily suspect Friday will barely have any news either. And then hopefully when we get back to Monday, we'll be back to something closer to a status quo. Although, in all fairness, February and January tend to be pretty weak times for video game news anyway. So now definitely would be the time to take a vacation. If YouTubers could take a vacation, you get the least amount of views during February and January anyways. I guess that is the one thing so far to be happy about, is that Google at least has not announced some new vast sweeping change. I wouldn't have been surprised, honestly, if they had raised the minimum number of subscriptions from 1,000 to 2,000 and just doubled it every year until they eliminated the vast majority of YouTube content creators from being in the YouTube Partner Program. But I guess I'm glad they didn't do that. That being said, I'm still over 500 subscribers away from getting even to 1,000. And with no solution in sight to get subscribers. Alright, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.